So I never really thought about my origin story too much lately. I mean, it never really seemed like a story to tell. I photograph little things on Lego. I mean, I talk a bit about, Katy Perry and getting on social media as an origin, but this whole nature nerd situation for me, this is a new thing. This is not an old thing. And my origin story came flooding back to me the other day in the most amazing wraparound way. So, I never really thought too much about nature or wildlife or anything until I started working at a seafood restaurant in Port Douglas years and years ago. And this restaurant, they used to feed Queensland giant gropers every afternoon at 5. These massive wild fish would just show up in the water next to this restaurant. And so they'd been feeding them for years. And when I worked at this place, they got me to feed the fish. They're like, you're the new guy, you can do this. Get out there, throw this in the water, make them come up to the surface and stuff. And I'd never thought about it. I didn't even realize there was fish that big. I never thought about it, never thought much about it. But when I was doing this feeding, I got really interested in the fish, really curious. And I'd never really been that curious in fish, but I wanted to know more about this massive fish. And so I started researching them. And while I was researching these fish, I learned all about them. Learned about their pharyngeal plates, the crushing plates in their throat that crush the prey that they suck into their mouths using their ambush predation. I learned about their sequential hermaphroditism and lifestyles where they're born one sex and change sex once they're big enough. Learned stories about how they'd been believed to be a threat to human life when they'd had interactions with human life, all of this crazy stuff. And I used to share these stories with people while I was feeding the fish at the restaurant. And I just kind of turned it into a talk, turned it into an interp talk, just to fill in the time while I was feeding the fish. Anyway, I was doing this for ages and people would come and watch this talk repeatedly because I'd change it. I just kind of talked my way through the stuff I knew differently every day. And people would come back and watch me again and again. And then one day in a staff meeting, one of the other staff asked if they could record my talk so they could play it on my days off, because people had mentioned to him that his talk wasn't as interesting as mine because he didn't say anything, he just fed the fish, which was all the company had ever asked of us. And the management in this meeting, we recorded it actually, brilliant audio, spent 7 minutes swearing their guts out and tearing strips off me for turning this thing into something more interesting than it had been. And so that was the point in my life when I realized that maybe I liked talking about fish more than I liked serving dead fish to strangers in a restaurant. And so I put together a resume and I went down to the boats in Port Douglas and I went looking for a job on a boat. And I said, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never worked on a boat before. I'm happy to learn whatever it takes, but I like talking about fish and I'd love to do this and talk about fish for a living. So that was like 11 years ago now. And the whole time I've been working in the snorkeling industry in the Great Barrier Reef, I've never seen a mature Queensland giant groper, ever. I've seen 2 juveniles in my whole life, and they weren't that big, but geez, I was impressed, because that was the fish. That was the fish that got me into the industry. And then just the other day, I managed to see, for the first time ever, a mature Queensland giant groper. And not only did I get to see a mature Queensland giant groper, but I was in the water with it. I got to snorkel down and have a close look at it and get these photos, which it was massive. But I was out with an AUIP group. And AUIP, I work with them now. I do marine science courses with American college students now. And it is a really proud thing for me because it's carrying on the legacy of an incredible man called John Rumney, who I met while I was working on the snorkel boats as he was bringing out AUIP groups. And I got really interested in this idea of, educating American college students on the reef, about the reef and all of this sort of stuff. And I got to know John and all of his projects and all the things he was up to. And he started GBR Legacy, which is an incredible not-for-profit. He's got this amazing company called Eye Marine Encounters. He was sort of the founding father, one of the founding fathers of this incredible Forever Reef Project here locally. He's just an incredible man, and he has left us unfortunately now. But it is very important to me that I carry on his legacy. And so it was a very strange and complicated and proud and heartwarming moment to be in the water with the fish that got me into the water in the first place, with a group of people which had changed the way I viewed education, citizen science, and the contributions of people on the planet today, all at the same time. And to have a photo like this taken by an AUIP student of me on an AUIP tour with a Queensland giant groper is just the absolute wraparound perfect story arc for my origin in the reef and in education on the reef, and everything that ever led into what I am now. All of what I do in the reef and the rainforest comes out of these ideas, comes out of this work. And it's so wonderful to have had this experience after 11 long years working in the water and always wanting to see a Queensland giant groper, Epinephalus lanceolatus, in the wild. How cool is that? I'll never get one with Lego, and I think I can live with that. I'm glad I got a photo of one with me. It's a hell of a thing.